Kami-sama back here, and welcome to another video and another installment of the Advanced Coordinating series. We're now on topic number 3, which will be all about accessories and accessorizing. Having come off the back of episode 2, which was all about depth in a coordinate, we really can't go any further talking about advanced coordinating without at least touching on accessories, particularly as this is something that even the most beginner Lolitas understand that at its core Lolita needs accessories. Of course, this means that accessorizing is firmly within the realm of needing more stuff in order to improve your coordinates, which is what makes it more aimed at the intermediate ones rather than beginners. However, this installment of Advanced Coordinating is more focused on how to use accessories in order to take your coordinates to that next level, rather than telling you you need to get this or you need to get that. How you use the accessories that you have and how you use them within the coordinates can be just as crucial as what the accessory pieces themselves are. And whilst they don't have to be expensive pieces or branded pieces, depending on your chosen substyle and how broad you want your wardrobe to be, you may need more or less. So knowing how to make the most out of the accessories that you have to create cords that are definitely no longer put together by beginners will hopefully aid you in either using what you already have to its full potential, or if you're still at the stage of building up a wardrobe, will inform your choices on what things you might be buying before you commit or before you make an impulse purchase. Before getting into the nitty-gritty of this topic, it will feel like we're splitting hairs, which we are. Firstly, if you hear any random noises, I'm very sorry, but my building is having work done to it, so there's nothing that I can do about that other than stop and pray that I'll be able to carry on filming without interruptions from outside. And secondly, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I encourage you to do so, as well as to click the bell button next to it, so that whenever I upload next, given that it's not the most regular uploading schedules, you'll be notified and won't miss the next Advanced Coordinating video. And if you want to make extra sure that you don't miss that, I suggest joining my Patreon, where the $1 a month tier will get you early access to every single blog post that I do. And given that this series runs parallel with the blog, you'll catch it that way. Or you can join the $2 a month tier, where you'll get 1 week early access to every single video that I upload. As mentioned in the introduction, accessories are something that you'll need regardless of what kind of style of Lolita you're into or how diverse your wardrobe is. The diversity of your wardrobe will determine how much you need, as in how many pieces for each look that you have within your wardrobe and how many of these might be interchangeable, but not so much how you use them. Although it is somewhat harder to generalize in this particular topic of advanced coordinating, as always, all the tips, advice and opinions that I give out are as generic and broad as possible, so that they can apply to the most casual coordinate to the most OTT one out there. As you will have learned from the previous installment of Advanced Coordinating, accessories can add depth to an outfit. However, they can do so much more than that, and that's the side that I'd like to explore today. But before we get into that, let's step back and take it back to its root. What does the verb to accessorize mean? As always with these kind of exercises, sorry to be taking you back to school if you've already left. The aim is to define the word without using the word you're trying to define. And after checking several different dictionaries for what definitions they offer, we arrive at the conclusion that to accessorize means to add things, and to add things that are decorative in nature. This feels like prime opportunity to compare Lolita fashion to Christmas trees. You can prefer to have your Christmas tree more decorative or less, to have it with more ornaments or fewer, but without the ornaments, it's just a tree. Similarly, a Lolita dress on its own does not make for a Lolita coordinate. You need all of the other pieces to go with it to make coordinate, and accessories are part of that coordinate. No matter how big or small, just like in our imaginary Christmas tree, they are there to tie the look together, even if you don't notice them until you look really closely. Which brings things back to the idea of balance in Lolita outfits, that whatever level of detail, however elaborate your outfit is, however voluminous it is, you will want to use accessories in a way to match that energy. And decorating or accessorizing is a highly subjective matter. Just like people have their own style within a fashion, people, I feel, also tend to have their own style or way of accessorizing. Some tend to be more methodical or formulaic, almost as if going with a tick list to make sure they have each element or have each area covered. Others lean more towards spontaneity and seeing what goes with the look they have, or seeing what channels the energy that they want to give off through their outfit. Personally, I believe that with time and with practice, the more you do it, you will arrive at your own style of accessorizing naturally. This usually goes hand in hand with discovering what kind of look you're hoping to achieve in Lolita fashion, and will be heavily informed with your accessorizing preferences that were pre-existing to your discovery of Lolita fashion. For example, not wearing rings because it's not something that you've ever done and you're not used to the sensation, as well as new discoveries and new preferences that you found out through Lolita fashion, having used accessories that you never did before, like realizing that you absolutely adore wrist cuffs, because there's no other fashion that I know of where you'd realize that wrist cuffs is something that you love to wear. Through experiences both within and outside of Lolita fashion, you will realize what you like on yourself, what you like the sensation of, and what helps you accomplish the look that you are pleased with and that you want to pursue further. Whatever style of accessorizing you end up arriving at, in my opinion, there are several distinct uses for accessories, which we can broadly categorize as such. Using accessories for color balance, using accessories for theme balance, using accessories to fill in the gaps within a coordinate, and a combination of some or all of the above. Of course, there are many ways to use accessories and to accessorize an outfit, and in most cases, which purpose of accessorizing you will lean more towards will be determined by the purpose of the outfit itself and the occasion for the outfit itself. Trying to balance themes and motifs becomes more important in more over-the-top styles for occasions that feel somewhat grander, either because you are given a theme to try to match or because it's a much bigger event, like tea parties, conventions, whatnot. Then it tends to be in casual looks that you're throwing on to go out and get some milk. Furthermore, the theme itself is a concept that can be interpreted broadly or narrowly, and which one you lean towards or which one you need in a given outfit will also be determined by occasion as well as your own preferences. So you can have a theme that's as narrow as roses and a theme as broad as florals or a garden, and you will lean more towards one or the other depending on what the outfit is worn for. using accessories to fill in gaps within an outfit tends to also be more of an OTT domain, but it's not exclusively so, as we can see by the many iconic old school snaps from GLB, Kera or Fruits, where a carefully placed accessory can make or break an outfit and really tie it together, as well as fill in a space that otherwise would seem just that little bit too empty. Balancing colours is something that most Lolitas grasp fairly quickly, seeing as there's already a fair bit of attention being drawn to it in terms of balancing colours in the coordinate itself through garments, socks, blouses, headpieces, shoes. And it ties into accessories quite naturally, so people end up practicing that more, even without realising sometimes, and then picking up the other ways of accessorizing as they go along and as they learn something more. Let me try and exemplify all of those accessorizing styles and show you how they work in practice using the same dress for each one of them. I know in the previous installments of Advanced Coordinating I've done it in pairs to give you immediate comparison, but due to the nature of the topic at hand, I think it will be easier to use the same dress as a base and show you how accessories change the look and how different styles and priorities of accessorizing make for a different look. And the dress that I'll be using, or the coordinates that I'll be discussing, all use Alice and the Pirates Rosier Fleur JSK. Starting with the Strike a Pose Day 1 outfit, so September 2019, in which it couldn't be clearer that accessories are there purely for colour balance. Whilst technically you could argue that the sax in this outfit is balanced because the shoes and the bonnet sandwich all the other ivory bits within it. Without the accessories, that colour would seem pretty shoehorned into the outfit. Although there isn't much in terms of accessories in there, there's one brooch, a sash and wrist cuffs. They are enough to indicate that the addition of Sax Blue in this outfit is intentional, both through relatively even distribution across the entire outfit and through the deliberate sticking to Sax Blue as a secondary colour and letting the ivory be the main thing. Whilst on the day I did try this outfit with socks that were ivory and sax, and I've tried them both with ivory shoes and with blue ones, it just didn't have the same impact. Which also goes to show that you don't have to go ham in with the accessories to achieve, your goal. In this case, the goal being colour balance. By taking it back and sticking to solid colour, though patterned legwear, I was still able to indicate that the inclusion of Sax Blue in this coordinate is deliberate, is intentional, and do it in a way that the shoes and the bonnet no longer feel out of place or like they're there because I said so. Had the coordinate only had the bonnet and the shoes as Sax Blue elements, it would have been a lot harder to argue a point that this is a deliberate and intentional choice of making it an ivory and sax coordinate than it is with the inclusion of those accessories. Having said this, whilst similar enough in terms of a broader sub-style, the accessories there are definitely only used for colour balance and not for balancing themes. The wrist cuffs had a very sweet heart-shaped lace design. The braid on the sash is almost military-esque. The brooch, whilst floral and kind of tying in with the bonnet, isn't enough to claim that this is now a floral themed outfit. So for showing how I've balanced themes, let me turn to the first outfit from the Cordtober 2020 prompt challenge, where the first prompt was spookiest colour combination. My idea for a ghostly look may not necessarily be obvious in this outfit, though it's also not entirely lost. mainly thanks to hair and makeup. However, the accessories used within this outfit introduce a secondary theme of florals. There are rose patterned tights, and the headdress is sandwiched with 2 rose clips. The ring has roses on it. The cross necklace, although not using roses specifically, also has some flowers on it. This was all playing off the fact that the fabric of this dress itself is a patterned one and has a woven floral design, as well as uses, I think, 3 different types of rose themed or floral themed lace. If my goal here was purely to maintain color balance, there are so many other accessories that I could have used that would have used white and red. I could have used my Wicked and Whimsy ring. I could have used the Puvithels crystal heart necklace. I could have used a velvet rosette pin. I could have used other types of legwear that have white and wine in there. By deliberately choosing accessories that are floral, I have committed to making this a theme within an outfit. Even if a secondary theme, considering how the first one was supposed to be a ghostly outfit, it was there nonetheless. And whilst it helped that all of those also helped to balance colors, when you look at where the different flower pieces are, you can see that they're also distributed fairly evenly across the whole outfit. Last but not least, we come to the idea of using accessories as fillers for gaps and for empty spaces. It may seem somewhat abstract at first if you're not used to accessorizing Lolita fashion, but if you stop and switch your thinking to considering accessorizing for filling up gaps in the same or similar way as you would for balancing colors, it starts to make a bit more sense. It's the same kind of principle in that if any one particular area feels like it's lacking in that color or in an accessory, whichever one we're dealing with here, then it probably is. With colors, this is somewhat more restrictive in terms of what you can use. You can balance colors only really by adding clothing or accessories. But with filling up empty gaps, you don't have to rely on accessories only. This is what I was getting at when I was discussing depth in a coordinate, because the textures and patterns of your outfit can also serve as filling in gaps. You're not so much looking for genuinely empty spaces as much as you're looking for large-ish areas that feel like they don't have anything that's visually interesting there. Textures certainly provide that visual interest, as it's not just a layer of flat fabric but something, patterned, textured, whether it be gobbling or ribbed or corduroy or anything that you may need. Textures will be there to fill in empty gaps. But where you can't fill in your gaps using depth and textures, or where even though the textures might be there, they don't necessarily come across so easily, as is the case with the Rosea Fleur JSK, accessories are your next thing to go for. This particular coordinate from August 2020 is also a great example of using all 3 styles of accessorizing in one outfit, and how by creating depth through layers, you again don't need to cram in a ton of accessories into the coordinate. In here, the layers and textures already do a lot of heavy lifting by creating depth as far as legs and arms, and to an extent torso goes. By moving the detachable bow from the waist to the top of the bodice, I've created an empty space on my lower torso, which was promptly filled by that long necklace. However, as you can see, that detachable bow is quite large, so when it sits at the waist, the tails of it hang over the dress, adding a bit more of a textural interest and depth in that area. So by moving it up, I've also created an empty space around the skirt, because despite this fabric being textured, it doesn't read as such on a photograph. Had I taken those rose clips off the skirt, we would have a coordinate where the skirt appears as a large flat area of nothing but ivory, and like it was missing something, be it a print or some more textural details, gathers, ruffles, something there. And again, it hasn't taken much to fill in that gap just by having 3 rose clips in there. There's now that visual interest in an otherwise big block of ivory, and it also helps to maintain color balance and spread it around more evenly, so that again it's not just a block of one color, but it's interspersed with a deliberately placed block of another. Furthermore, this outfit deliberately uses only one theme, and one very narrow theme, which is roses, down to the pattern on the socks and the lace on the headdress. Every single accessory in this outfit is rose themed. Now that we've established how accessories can be used, let's very briefly touch on the kind of accessories that you get. And again, this isn't to tell you that you have to get these particular specific pieces, because what you need will vary greatly depending on the look that you're going for. Me telling you all you have to get bow clips will be completely useless if what you're aiming for is Mana Sama styled gothic, or a very vintage looking classic where in one case crosses and in the other one florals would probably be more appropriate. As this series is aimed at those more advanced later, hopefully I don't need to tell you that the accessories that you need should be of good quality, and you already know how to distinguish the good ones from the crappy ones. Instead, I want you to focus on considering having a range of accessories that will help you create a variety of looks that are distinct from another. This is more of a think about the context kind of advice, as well as advice of you can change things up somewhat cheaper with accessories. The context advice relates to where are you wearing your outfit. If it's just to be posted on social media, you'll probably want things that are more prominent and visible so that they don't disappear in photographs, or you'll want to take detailed shots of your accessories to showcase those. Whereas for a meetup where there will be other people able to see and admire your accessories in person, it doesn't matter whether you've gone for a bold plastic big piece or a dainty delicate necklace, because they'll be there, they'll be able to see and ask, "Ooh, can I have a closer look at your necklace?" And as far as changing up looks with accessories, it's a similar kind of energy as what I mentioned in the hair and makeup video, in that you can have the same outfit, use different accessories that will then transform it to different themes. Once you figure out or decide or commit to what kind of looks you want to have within your wardrobe, what themes, what sub-styles, you'll be able to narrow down exactly what sort of things you need and decide what ratio of things you might need in terms of how many OTT pieces and how many more casual ones you'll get the most use out of. This is again something that's best exemplified on an OP, because an OP will not distract you with different blouses, and you can really see how big a part accessories can play within a coordinate. It's also worth noting that accessories don't have to be restricted to just jewelry. You can think about anything as accessories. You know, it can be as, your definition can be as narrow as hair pieces and jewelry and the miscellanea, and as broad as overlayers, underskirts, overskirts, peignoirs, socks, shoes, bags, things like this. In the looks that you're seeing on screen now, for obvious reasons of taking only a portrait shot, I've limited accessories to jewelry, headpieces, and some miscellanea. But immediately by comparing these three, all of which were deliberately shot using not just the same dress, but also on the same day when I had the same hair and makeup, and trying to pose them in as same ways as possible, really show how changing just a couple of things makes an enormous difference to how the outfit looks and how it reads. Because in each of those, there are only a couple of accessory elements. Actually, in each of them, there are only 4 pieces of accessory, and everything else stays the same. Yet, by changing them up, I've landed with very, very distinct looks. As I've been saying throughout this video, accessorizing is extremely personal and very subjective. It depends on your personal preferences, your comfort levels, even down to things like allergies, scalp sensitivities, physical limitations, as well as simply what you like and what your tastes are. Finding your own style of accessorizing can really go far in terms of putting a mark on your coordinates and signify to the world that these are yours. Not in any kind of ownership ways, but more in the sense that Lolitas who have their own distinct style, we can often tell their outfits from a lineup of other ones, even when they're just flat lace, in no small part because they have their own style of accessorizing and putting things together. This is why I keep encouraging you to use this series as a lens and then look at the outfits that you yourself admire and are inspired by to see how those people have used this particular element that I'm discussing to their own advantage and how they're using it to create a specific effect that you are admiring. For my own example for this installment, I'd like to suggest at Milk Circus on Instagram, who is recently more active through her website milkcircus.com or through a brand, Dandy Puppetoire. From the get-go, Milk Circus had a very clear idea of what look she was after and pursued that. The fact that it was, although broad in sub-styles and potential stylings or colour palettes, narrowed down by the theme, which is Circus Lolita, would have been of tremendous help in informing her choices when purchasing accessories and determining which pieces would be useful in an almost exclusively Circus Lolita wardrobe and which ones she wouldn't have so much of a need for. What's amazing to see on her Instagram feed is that despite sticking to such a seemingly narrow theme within our niche fashion, and despite obviously reusing main pieces, she's been able to achieve tremendous diversity of looks, and no 2 of them read the same. Accessories and how they're used in those coordinates play a key role in differentiating the looks and creating different levels of elaborateness as well as different takes on the circus theme. Granted, if you want to use Milk Circus as your inspiration, you'll be heavily distracted by her expertise in creating depth in a coordinate, particularly through layering and patterns, which also help achieve a very, very diverse range of looks within the same theme. So you may want to start unpicking some of her simpler and more casual ones first before trying to unpack what's going on in those elaborate OTT ones. But this is also what I meant earlier when I said how broad is your definition of accessories, because although blouses and socks are an essential part of a Lolita coordinate, by using them for their patterns or by using them for their cuts and by using them for the depth that they bring into a coordinate, they are essentially also working in ways not too dissimilar to accessories. In Milk Circus's coordinates, the blouses and socks aren't there just for the sake of ticking the boxes of Lolita rules. They're there because they add something to a coordinate, and in this case it's both depth, which is one thing, and very often theme and color balance, which is something we associate more with accessories, or at least that we've discussed at length in the context of accessories here. But as I said, accessorizing is very, very subjective and is an area where it's hard to generalize. So I do encourage you to dig out that folder of saved coordinates or go on your social media of choice and look at the outfits that catch your attention and unpack what's happening there in terms of accessories. As I mentioned earlier, this is very much an area of going into minute details, and the further we go in this series, the more areas like this we'll have. Normally, if you want to get specific advice on does this accessory work or not, or how would I use accessories for that kind of a coordinate, you're entering mentoring territory, or at the very least intense, in-depth, detailed, constructive criticism territory. So if you are in a position where you can rely on one person's direct and specific input, please be sure to appreciate them, because unpacking coordinates to this degree of detail and in this depth takes a lot of time and energy. So make sure to appreciate if someone is giving you that kind of advice. On that note, thank you so much for watching this one. I hope that you have found it useful, and I hope that the way I've presented this advice and this area of advanced coordinating has made sense to you. If there are any further questions that I haven't answered, by all means, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to address those, as well as leave any other kinds of comments that you feel like. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. My aim is to make at least one video a month, but whilst for a long time the Around Your Wardrobe in 30 Coordinates challenge lookbooks have been the one video that was guaranteed to you, I'm seeing the end of that, so I'll have to start thinking of something else to do for that one video a month, and at which point I don't know whether I'll have enough to carry on doing more than that. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss when I upload, do subscribe, do click the bell, do join my Patreon if you want to see those videos early, and if you want to get access to some behind the scenes on my deciding what to do once Around Your Wardrobe in 30 Coordinates challenge ends. It would have been what? 2 years practically of me doing that. I'm not sure what I'll do with myself, but I'll definitely be exploring that on Patreon. And as always, I encourage all of you to check out my blog, which is Cupcakes and Unicorns, where you'll find more Lolita content. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye!